The gift that keeps on giving, which is of course Deontay Wilder, both in the ring and outside the ring. In the ring, he is one of the most entertaining fighters you will see. Even if he's in a fight that is on the surface boring, when you watch it live, you just can't help but sit on the edge of your seat because you know that shot can come at any time. And outside the ring, he makes some strange statements about some of the things Tyson Fury specifically has done to win, which, anyone would, just complete. It's funny to actually see some of the things he's said about Fury over the years and how he's been able to cheat in all 3 fights and still get away with it. Yeah, real funny. But he gave an interview here with the Last Stand podcast. I'm going to quote him directly here. There's certain things I want to touch on with this statement he's going to say. And as well as that, I want to talk about his fight with Parker as well as a result, right? So, this was on Anthony Joshua, right? This is what Deontay Wilder has said here. He said he claims that Eddie Hearn still does not want to make the Joshua fight, though he believes it will happen regardless. He says, and I quote, he don't want that fight because he's not confident in his product. Joshua is the only money-making fighter Matchroom has. They don't want to see their business fall to the likes of me, someone that can end somebody's career, end quote. Now, he also said the same about Tyson Fury. If anything, he made Tyson Fury's career because Fury went from strength to strength after each fight. So, Wilder said that before and it's not worked. Look, Wilder, he said that Joshua was, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially not a real champion. He was made a champion, not born a champion, that Eddie Hearn basically gave him, again, paraphrasing, but quote-unquote easy fights, right? Which is completely not true. If anything, it's the other way around. Deontay Wilder, one of the most protected champions in a long, long time. In a long, long time. I mean, he only had to make 2 mandatory defenses of his title. In, how many years was he champion? 5 years? Yeah, 5 years. 2 mandatory defenses, and both of those mandatories were pretty run-of-the-mill. I mean, Bermane Stavern, he'd only had 1 fight in that 3-year period, or 2.5 years anyway, since he'd lost to Deontay Wilder. And then it was just, a Luis Ortiz was the biggest risk up until Tyson Fury. And at the time, Fury was only a couple of months back into his comeback. He wasn't the Tyson Fury who fought Deontay Wilder in the rematch. The Fury in the first fight was a Fury who was still, trying to lose weight, trying to find out where he was at in terms of ability, because he'd been out of the ring and had to lose an enormous amount of weight in a relatively short space of time. So Wilder, in terms of him saying, obviously not in this quote, but in the past, saying that Joshua is the guy who had it. Joshua in his, 18th, 19th fight was in there with Vladimir Klitschko. And then a year later, he was unifying with Joseph Parker. What was Wilder doing in his 18th, 19th fight? He was fighting absolute unknowns. Seriously, you look through his record, it's just unknowns. What was he doing when he was champion? He wasn't doing any of that. What he says here about Eddie, he believes Eddie Hearn does not want the fight. To me, there is an element of truth there. That's one thing I will say. There is an element of truth there, because Eddie Hearn has spoken, even before this Day of Reckoning card was announced, about the Otto Wallin fight and, looking for a crack at Filip Hrgović, right? And obviously with that Otto Wallin fight, should Joshua come through it, well, he will then, as I've said, usurp Otto Wallin in the rankings. He will then, I believe, more than likely be number 2 in the rankings, which would mean then, if the Fury-Usyk fight happens, let's say Tyson Fury wins, and let's say an immediate rematch isn't called, because obviously both guys can, both guys can do it, I think. Or certainly the loser can definitely do it. Let's say a rematch is called, let's say a rematch is called. Well, then obviously the IBF title is going to go bye-bye. It's going to be vacant. It's going to be between Hrgović and number 2 ranked contender to fight for it. That could then potentially be Joshua if he beats Otto Wallin, which gives him a different road to go now. Now, I certainly hope he doesn't do that. I want to see the Wilder fight, and I think that's the fight the Saudis want, and I think if they want it, they'll put money up to get this fight, and I think really it becomes a stage of, well, there's that much money on the table. You kind of got, if you want to get paid, you're going to have to do it. In terms of him saying that Joshua is Hearn's only money-making fighter, well, let's have a look. See, just think off the top of my head, right? Conor Benn, we still don't know where he's at now. So Conor Benn, and again, only really primarily in the UK. So Conor Benn, we can kind of put a question mark against that for the time being. Who else does he have then? After Conor Benn, Devin Haney, potential there. Bam Rodriguez, Sonny Edwards, again, potential there with both of those guys. After that, really, I'm just trying to think. Now again, it's not easy without a list there in front of me, but I'm thinking there. You know, in the UK, he's got guys who do decent numbers, but would they be pay-per-view? Likely would. Not quite. Not really. That's... Joshua probably still is. Well, that still is. He definitely is Matchroom's biggest draw. Certainly in terms of their, who they have now. They don't have Canelo. He might be right there when he says that he's maybe their only big money fighter. I mean, they do have fighters, in the pipeline, but he could be right there. But, what I want to say primarily about this is that Deontay Wilder is doing what I don't like fighters to do. And what that is going into a big fight and talking about the fight after, talking about someone completely different to who they should be fighting. Deontay Wilder's not talking about Joseph Parker. And every single time I see that, every time, maybe not every time, but the majority of the times I see that, certainly in high profile fights, it's normally either an upset or close to an upset. Dillian Whyte, this is exactly what Dillian Whyte was like going into the Povetkin fight, the first fight. Oh, the winner of Tyson Fury 2021, if he fights John, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's like, mate, you've got Povetkin, focus on him. Worry about that fight and then talk about Fury, Wilder, whoever the hell you want to talk about. But focus on the Povetkin fight. No, you didn't, and he got knocked out in 5 rounds. Right? Obviously, he was able to go avenge that loss, but it pushed his mandatory back a year. He could have had that fight in 2021. It might have been a lot more fresher then than he did in 2022 when he finally did fight him. There was that. There's other instances as well you could look at, but whenever you see a fighter always talking about their opponent and he's going to do this and this, focus on the job at hand. If Deontay Wilder was fighting a Gerald Washington level fighter, I'd say, yeah, probably alright, fair enough, yeah, fair enough, you probably talk ahead because you're likely to get through it. Joe Parker is still useful. So focus on Joseph Parker rather than talk about Joshua this and next and this and Dilly did. Focus on Joseph Parker. And likewise with Anthony Joshua, focus on Oliver Lean, right? You can talk all about that later, but focus on your opponent now, because at the end of the day, right, whether Wilder or Joshua happens, it won't happen if either guy loses. Both guys have 2 tasks in front of them. And they're decent enough tasks. They're not easy fights. They might turn out to be easy, but at least on paper, they're not easy fights. So Wilder really should be focusing his attention on Joseph Parker. Never mind what Hearn says. Never mind what Joshua was doing. Focus on your opponent. You're fighting him in 3 weeks, for God's sakes. Focus on Joseph Parker would be my advice to Deontay Wilder. That's what I got to say in this video. Let me know your thoughts on Wilder's comments there in the comment section below. Be interested to hear your thoughts. For now, lads and lassies, I will leave you with that. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Back home after a nice weekend away. Needed a break. Needed a little rest, recoup. But we're back making plenty of videos. And oh God, do I have a lot to do this week in terms of recording. I love sitting in front of a camera. I love doing this. I love just that's why I didn't like the audio. I like just doing the recording. Cameras there on the stand, sitting here, chatting to you guys. I'm happy. That's all I got to say. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I'll leave you with that. Peace.